Okay, so you gave a very interesting talk just now. I wonder if you wouldn't mind answering a few short questions.
Yes, of course.
And if you could first introduce yourself and your institution and your current role.
Yes, I'm Flaminio Squazzoni from the University of Brescia in Italy, and I'm assistant professor of economic sociology, and I lead a research group called GEX, which stands for Group on Experimental and Computational Sociology.
Okay, and I wonder if you could give a brief overview of the talk that you just gave.
Yeah, basically my talk was intended to show the advantages of combining laboratory experiments and agent-based models, and particularly using the lab experiment as a kind of data generative mechanism for calibrating agent-based models. And at the same time, we did some experience in using agent-based models, and particularly also simulation results, to guide us in designing experiments. So, I mean, there's a twofold combination in two directions at the same time. And from the analytical viewpoint, we wanted to understand better the interplay between social norms and institutions and market behavior. That was so particularly we are investigating the role of trust and reputation to help economic agents in being more efficiently or more effective in giving rise to efficient market.
Okay. Well, I've got an interesting question now, which is agent-based social simulation is still quite a minority enterprise. Now, I know that you've been active in agent-based modelling and social simulation for quite some time. In fact, you organised the last year's ESSA summer school, which I think was the first. Was that the first summer school?
Yeah, it was the first summer school in this field. Yeah.
So I'm kind of interested in what got you into agent-based social simulation.
Yeah, well, I started to understand potentials of social simulation during my first year when I was a PhD student. And, well, basically there was an old guy in Italy starting to do simulation in the late 80s. And he was my tutor, my supervisor at the time. And so he introduced me to Swarm. I remember it was 99. And he said, well, why not trying to do economic sociology in that kind of way? And I mean, I had a very, unfamiliar background for people doing social simulation, in the sense that I took a degree in history. And so I moved to sociology. But when I wrote my dissertation, my dissertation was about the application of complex systems to understand history. And so, I mean, I felt quite familiar. I feel this social simulation in respect to complex system background. And so I decided to apply agent-based models to understand the interaction among firms in industrial districts, which are a typical kind of topology of industry in Italy. So I started to model firms' behavior, interaction, in influence, mutual influence, in particular in technological learning. And then I became more interested in understanding implications of this kind of research for sociology and in general for social sciences. So then I started to learn more about the implications of this kind of research, and so also epistemological but also methodological implications. So that's the reason why now I have an interest also in methodological issues about, about how to, in particular I'm interested in how to improve the combination of the cross-fertilization between agent-based modeling and other more traditional methods in social sciences, because I feel that probably this is crucial to show to my community, in particular a community of sociologists, that this kind of research is interesting and can explain something and can help, in particular, can help to reduce the fragmentation which characterizes sociology. So, in particular, if you are able to combine agent-based modeling with qualitative research, or with quantitative, or with experimental research.
Okay. And could you mention one current interesting idea or problem that you're thinking about right now?
Yeah, so, well, that's interesting. Now I'm working, for instance, I have a research project on the emergence of discrimination on markets. Mm-hmm. So understanding how it's possible that negative, from the social viewpoint, negative outcome can easily happen on market, even if players or agents in this market are not so conscious about what is going on or what the consequences of their behavior. We are right now in these weeks we have done experiments on discrimination, replicating a kind of labor market in the lab, and as I said, we are trying to use this data to build an ABM model capable of enlarging the size of our observation from microscope of the lab to a very complicated or more complex large systems as in the reality, to understand how it's possible, how can you reduce, for instance, discrimination, how can we use the insights of the model to help policymakers or authorities working on the market to try to reduce this negative outcome, which seems very easily to happen.
And now quite a difficult question, which is, if there was one, could you mention for you one formative book or paper or lecture that that influenced you in your direction in science?
Yeah, well, my first influence probably have been the Schelling's book about micro behavior and macro consequences. This was extremely useful in the sense that it captured a very simple, like in segregation model, very simple and crucial social puzzle, and Schelling translated it in a very simple and intuitive model, which helped us in understanding how naturally and very spontaneously surprising outcomes are very easily generated by the interaction of agents when agents influence each other by behavior. This was one of probably my first reference. But also, for instance, Herbert Simon influenced me a lot in the idea of applying complex systems and artificial intelligence approaches to social sciences.
Okay. And finally, could you identify one possible future policy application of agent-based modelling?
Well, I mean, now the reply is obvious in the sense that I mean, one of the most important, probably let's hope application of social simulation for policy is on financial markets, in the sense that I mean there's a window probably for unconventional approaches in economics, and unconventional both from the side of injecting more realistic psychological foundations to explain agent behavior, but also sociologically, so trying to investigate more deeply the role played by social influence, in particular by social networks, for instance, among traders, to understand how it happens that their decisions are so much biased. And this is I got a PhD student of mine who is starting right now, is second here in our PhD program, who is interested in trying to apply in both experimental and computational approaches to understanding the role of social networks among traders to generate this kind of very biased behavior on markets.
Okay, well, thanks, Flaminio, for answering the questions, and thanks for a very interesting talk.
It has been a pleasure.